Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Poema podcast. I'm James Prescott, your host. Welcome to the show. And with me today is Rob Bell. Uh, Back again. I think this is about the fourth, fifth. I can't remember now how many times you've been on the show. It doesn't really matter. It's not a competition. But no, Rob's back. He's got another book which has just come out, another novel. You remember Rob was on earlier, was on last year to talk about his last book, uh, which was Where do you park your spaceship, which is Rob Bell writing science fiction, which is really really good fun, and it's fun. And this is the second book in the series, and it's I've just been listening to it on Audible, and Rob's reading it on Audible, which just makes for me felt made the whole book different. It was a much more fun experience listening to you read it than just reading it myself. So I will talk about that. But yeah, this it's the new one. It's called and I want you to pronounce it because I heard you were pronouncing it differently to how I would have pronounced it. So it's there's only one noon yeah, or is
There's
it
only one noon yay.
noon yay
That's
yay?
why I love the recurring joke when her friends Whoosh and Shucks and Whoosh are like, they spell out her name for her for the first time, and they're like, "Yeah, it's not
Mm,
we're not spelling it like it would be pronounced, but you just do it your own way because that's how you are." And she's like, "Wait, what? That makes no sense."
yeah, and noon yay is. I love this character. I love this character. She's fascinating, and this story is really kind of her story because we see her at the end of the first novel. We see her a little bit, and at the end of this novel, she's kind of catching up with where we were. but
Yes.
this but this story is really like I was laughing, crying. There were moments of tenderness as well, like and grief and joy and just wonder. It's this journey of discovery where she discovers herself in the universe. That's what it felt like to me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and she's just great. Just what I think, like one of the things I love about, well, it's not just this book, but the not the previous one was this kind of sense of discovery about things that we just take for granted, right? Like buying a house, right? There's the whole thing about buying a house. When she buys a house, and she's like, "Oh, you can buy houses. What are houses?" And uh, and then goes through this whole process of buying a house like really quickly, and it's just yeah, and it's just that kind of innocence with her all the way through. No matter how further along her journey she goes, she's still got that sense of wonder uh, and just joy about discovering new things.
Yeah, it was really compelling to me as I was following her and telling her story to see that she doesn't really have any conditioning or programming. There
Mm,
isn't No one has told her how it's supposed to be. There's no patriarchy, there's no power dynamic really. Even there's this woman who apparently is a caretaker, but we're not quite sure, and they live all alone in this remote valley, and it was really, really compelling to me to have her not have all these mental structures around what's supposed to happen or how she's supposed to be. Like when she meets those girls who are brushing their hair in a circle, and they're like,
yeah,
"Why are you wearing that?" And she has that first encounter with, and she hears the word normal, and she says, "I don't know what that word means, but I know how it feels." Like she encounters like peers pressure that is actually conventional wisdom about this is what you're supposed to dress or act like, and she's just infuriated because it she doesn't have any of that. So she has her
mm,
experience, she has her intuition, she has her response to things, but she doesn't have any sense of what you like when she ends up being a plumber at like the age 8 or something and she's unclogging people are hiring her to unclog their drains. She has absolutely no sense that that's like not something 8-year-olds do.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely. Yeah.
I found it I found it really really fascinating to think about to enter into a world, enter into a psyche of someone who's just following life as it arises without any giant structure that she's constantly holding it against.
Mm.
And it makes
Yeah,
her like even how she'll say to people, like, I don't know what that word means. She has no sense
yeah,
that like you're
that's
just
it.
supposed to pretend like you understand things. She's just very straightforward. Like, stop. I don't know what that word means. Tell me what that word means. You
Yeah.
can't just keep using words I don't know.
Yeah, she doesn't do the thing that we all do, which is pretend that we know what the word is and look it up on Google later. She just she
And I
just
that's
asks
there's
straight
something
out.
that that's something
Yeah.
that makes her it makes her to me like so compelling is her she's just telling you what it's like to be her and not comparing it to anything. I don't know. Other people feel the same. She doesn't have any of that. She just has
Mm.
this is what it's like to be me.
Yeah, that's right. And it's fascinating because you go right into it. It's not written like a conventional novel, which I love. It's just it's just what it is. I don't know what
I
else I
have
can say about it. It's just and it's amazing and it's fun and it's compelling, you know, because of that. Like it's just uh
I have no training. I haven't been to writers workshops or I haven't been to retreats.
yeah.
I haven't read science fiction, so I don't know I don't have some even genre or like I just it's like a spell. There's the story and it's
Mm,
sucks me in and follow it, almost like listening to her and then just typing. So
yeah.
I yeah,
Because it's in
there
the first
it
person as
is.
well. Yeah. Isn't it? So
Pardon?
it's in the first person, isn't it, as well, the book. It's told from
Yeah,
almost like
yeah.
told by her, which is really interesting when it's an audio book and you're reading it and it's of course it's a her. Like I think I got confused at the beginning. Like, is this a he or a she? Like, I had to figure. It took me a while to figure it out, but I did. Um, but yeah, so it is literally you are just sharing her story in this book. Essentially, you're kind of the scribe for her to tell her story.
Yeah, and I didn't know if it was possible. Like, I knew right away in book 1 what book 2 would be. That was very clear, and I knew it would be from her, and I knew the last line and I knew the first line, and I had a loose sense of how she became who she becomes. But beyond that, I was discovering it not knowing if because in book 1 it's written by Heen. So as a writer, I just had the I don't know. I don't know if I could write and it wouldn't just be like, God, this sounds like a female Heen. Like there's nothing different. So that was I had that question and the only way was just to listen to the story and like what is how does it start? Oh, I named myself. Yeah, I just start. It was like a very writerly sort of, the first line, so type the first line and then type the second line and just trust
Hmm.
that it's her story, so it'll feel like her. And like it took me a long time to be able to even see, oh, Heen stands at a distance from experiences. He watches and observes and notices. And he's got this friend Nord who's larger than life. And then he sort of holds back and Nunez just goes like just whatever it is. So that's the kind of interesting thing as a writer where you like if you intentionally try to okay, I need to make sure that you get all jammed up. You know what I mean? Like stuck in your head. It's almost like it's like very something. It's like you quiet the mind and just follow the story and
Mm,
trust that it'll feel how it feels and it'll be what it'll be. It's very, very interesting process. It's, you're a writer. It's like everything about writing is about life. Anything you could say that's true about writing is
yeah,
true about how to live. So yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot going on there.
yeah. That's right. I mean, I've never written fiction yet, though. I think my body keeps telling me that I need to write some fiction. And it might be time to do that. I'm just figuring out what it is. I don't know what it is, but maybe I should just start writing. That's maybe that's what it is. Um, yeah, but uh, yeah, I like creating characters. A lot of people that create fictional characters, like when they write them, they end up. I've spoken to a lot of authors, and they always say they've got to. These characters are not telling their own story. Even you might have plans for these characters and what they're going to do, but in
Yeah,
the end, they just end up doing it themselves.
yeah,
It sounds like that's what happened with here as well. Obviously, uh, she just
for
ended up
sure.
telling her own story. Yeah, you're just like the conduit for that story. You don't get to decide what that story is; it's just there. Uh, One of the things actually I noticed listening to the book, there's a lot of moments, especially like in part one, where like you're laughing out loud, like really, like almost like you're reading the book and just cracking up laughing at the book. It's not. It doesn't. I think it's you laughing rather than the characters. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That 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 was wonderful because it was like you get as much joy out of making this stuff and reading it, even just reading it for an audiobook as we do from reading it and experiencing it ourselves. And that was it almost felt quite intimate actually, like just that we got to share that I got to share in that just that joy and also the emotion as well. There's one where I think it's where she I can't remember where there's a departure. Somebody leaves with somebody, and it's a big
Yes.
emotional moment. Uh,
Yeah, Brigida's leaving. They're sitting on
that's
the
it.
crates.
That's it. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
you, yeah,
devastating.
and I was emotional, uh, and obviously you were. You could sense it. You had to pause for a minute, and I've never heard that on an audio bit before, where an author's been experiencing it as I've been experiencing it, and that added something to the book for me anyway. As I was listening to it,
Yeah,
uh,
the energetic imprint of a creation is in its origins. So how you made it, those fingerprints are all over whatever it was. People will talk about something as a labor of love. They'll
mm,
talk about something like it felt like a transmission. We'll talk about how it pulled things out of us. Like we have these very interesting stories that we tell when we've made something, whether it's remodeling a house or making a meal, like how, all the different ways that we describe the experience of making something and sharing with it, but the spirit in which it was made, it gets imprinted on whatever it is. So if you, the writer, are like caught up in it, it is like delighting you, surprising you, it is opening your heart, then there's a chance that the reader will pick that up. It's like what's happening in the white space around all those black etchings that are the letters. And the person who's like, this is a slog, I don't like this, I'm just doing this to get it done. Maybe the words will vibrate on the page in a unique, moving, vital way, but there's a good chance then the writing will feel like it felt for the person to write it, just like a slog, like they were just doing it because they were supposed to, they thought, or something. So it's
mm,
like especially as a writing is really interesting because as you know, it strips everything away and you're just sitting there with a blank screen and it exposes Am I doing this so that somebody will like it? Am I doing this so that somebody will pay
Mm.
me for it? Am I doing this so that I'll feel like I accomplished something? Like it holds a mirror in a very vulnerable way. It's almost like it forces you to clean up
Yeah,
your interiors around it. So you're like, I'm writing this because it's tugging on my sleeve. It's it's demanding expression. It's inviting me to dance with it. It's like you have to find the framing that you have to find the beautiful, helpful way. I'm writing this to my earlier self because if had had this book when I went through what I went through, it would have been so helpful. So I'm writing to my earlier self so I can write to everybody who's where I was, who this might be able to help them. Like it's like you have to find the framing story that sings, that hums, that opens you up.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
like half the battle right there.
absolutely. Yeah, and I know that. I know that feeling of looking at a blank page and like, what is going to come out next? Like, I think I had an experience of writing the other week where I was just writing for myself. That's all I'm doing at the moment. I'm just writing for myself, and I just
Good.
gave myself,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's brilliant. It's really great. I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I'm finding out a bit more about myself. And I started to write, and I thought, I don't know. It was like almost like a different voice came out. It was me, but it was me who I've become over the last few years. Finally coming
Yeah.
out like, and I'm like, oh, I like this. This sounds like me. And I just wrote. I can't even remember what I wrote, and that's great, isn't it? You can't
Mhm.
remember what I
Mhm.
wrote. Like it was,
Mhm.
and it was different to anything I've written before in just the language and how it was written and like everything. It was just yeah, it was liberating. I mean, I've just moved house. I've just got rid of a storage unit, which is uh, you know, which was like 6 years old and had stuff from my whole life there, which I'd not looked at for years, and I just got rid of it all. And there was a
Oh,
grieving,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I need to write about that somewhere, but and it was like a metaphor as well for my whole life. Like I'm coming into that second season of life. I just got married 6 months or 4 months ago, uh,
Oh, nice.
and like I'm doing immigration stuff for America, and I'm kind of in a liminal space, but also not in a liminal space because I'm already there. I'm already married. I've already been there. I've already got stuff there, uh, but I'm not quite there yet because of legal stuff, right? But letting go of that stuff was almost like it was like clearing space inside of
Yes.
me,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and suddenly I had space to write because I hadn't been able to write for ages until I moved, and
Oh,
then
that's so
got to
fascinating.
move, yeah. And I've been talking to my therapist. It got so bad with this storage unit that I was talking to my therapist about it. It was becoming such a thing, and
It's
I
like
didn't expect it.
nothing can get the words coming faster than getting rid of hundreds and hundreds of pounds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and also loads of books that I didn't read anymore that were I'd probably be embarrassed to read to say I owned now. Probably loads of
You're
Christian
done.
books and stuff.
Chapter's over.
Yeah, and they're gone. I didn't even wait for them to finish. I just left because I thought, you know what, I don't need to stay. I'm done. Like, and it was very liberating. Yeah, I didn't think I'd be talking about that. That's amazing what happens when you talk about writing. But yeah, but what you're but this I mean, both of these novels and the plays that you've done recently as well, like which are amazing. And I think weren't they written by they also written by some of the characters in these books, or at least one of them was.
One of the plays was written by one of the characters in the books, yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I can't remember which one it is, but is it the Knucker one? It's the Knucker one, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, 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 uh, yeah. So like just seeing all this is like that that happened for you a few years ago. What's just happened to me, and suddenly all this empty space is being filled up with all these all these new stories that you have, and
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, what is it? What's the experience like for you writing these stories? How does it? How is it changing you?
It has profoundly it's actually changed my life in lots and lots and lots of ways because I giving these stories, it's almost like giving them what they're asking for, which is simply to type them out and release them and then record the audiobook. I didn't write stories for years because I was doing something I did a different kind of work, and I had, like, a almost, like, too good to be true, like, that would be amazing to just tell stories, but I'm doing this. So part of it was giving myself permission to just follow it and give
Mm.
it what it was asking for. And the only way it works is to still the mind to the point where it's almost like it's over in the corner with its feet up, just relaxed. And it's like a spell, like what's happening today in the story. And I have ideas about where it's headed. I have scenes and there are things coming up that I know are going to happen, but I don't know how far out they are or when. I just know that today we're starting here and then I follow it and see what's happening in the scene. Oh, this person arrives. What's their name? This is their name. Shucks, whoosh, pop. Oh, okay. Interesting. Like the name is like the portal. And when I
Yeah,
first wrote the first Where'd You Park Your Spaceship and sent a couple first drafts to some friends, one friend was like, this is what it's basically, it was like, this is who I know you to be. This is like what it's like to be your friend. And there was something about that that really, really did something to me. And a lot of my work in the previous decades was about explaining things. And
mm.
this is the absolute surrender of explaining thing. I don't know what the point
Mm.
is. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it's this girl Nunez who goes up on the planet Meebs. I don't know what, and somehow it matters more than decades ago when I would talk about changing the world and how important this work was. And now I'm in February giving you the detailed topographical description of the planet Meebs, and somehow it matters to me more than any of that previous work. So
Yeah,
it's turned on its head the idea of it's like you get a thing in your head about who James is or who Rob is, and then something comes along and asks you to birth it, to give it form and shape, and it you realize that your sense of who you are has to be reshaped and some things have to die so that you can be true to it. Like, well, apparently I do this now. So it
yeah,
just loosens, it's just done an incredible work of loosening my sense of what a self even is. Just makes you more like you saying you've been writing for yourself without any sense anybody else will read it is like a different approach to the writing, and you're just going with it without any sort of, but I'm supposed to, you're just going with it, and it's doing something profound in you, and the idea of what it's for, like when you were describing it, you don't know what it's for, you don't know what its point, you don't know what it means. You're just, when you're present to your life and just responding to it as it arises, all of these mental thought structures around meaning, point, purpose just dissolve. They just go away. They
mm.
actually sound quite silly because you're like, why are you jamming up this wonderful experience you're having with the whole thing? Just go, just follow,
Yeah,
see where it leads. I find
yeah,
that to be one of the great paradoxes and surprises at the heart of being human is when you're present with a calm, quiet mind, things get really clear and you simply follow them, and a whole world of needing to name it, label it, understand it, just like you don't even know where it went. Or as a friend of
Yeah,
mine said, you didn't drop those thoughts, the thoughts dropped you. And if you look back, you can't quite you don't remember the moment when they dropped you. You just don't see it that way anymore. You didn't have to muscle it or exert all kinds of strength. Like, you see the world differently than you did. But if we were to go back and how did you expand, evolve,
yeah,
think differently? You'd be like, I
yeah,
don't know. At some point,
yeah,
how did I make my
exactly that.
thoughts different? I didn't. They dropped me somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
I woke
I
up
don't
to
even
this
yeah,
problem.
like, 'cause we come from, like, historically from a world where you have that moment and you think, "Oh, everything's changed," like, the conversion moment or whatever you call it, like, which which is from that faith, that institution that I was part of, that you were part of, and but it's not like that. It's like you say, it's a I don't remember the moment I became. There wasn't a single moment I became who I am now. There was there was just there was just an evolution where you wake up one day and think, "Oh, I don't do that anymore. I'm not like that
Yeah,
anymore. I don't believe that anymore. I don't use that language
yeah,
anymore. And
yeah.
oh, I do that instead. That's great." You know,
And
uh,
however much effort it requires or exertion that took place, there's it all your life has a your life itself has a life of its own that
mm,
carries you along. Your
yeah,
far larger energies are in play than just what can I muster up, what can I make happen. You're participating in such larger dynamics. It just make it all
absolutely.
so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's really yeah. I'm aware more than ever of my consciousness and my body being two different things, and they have a relationship with each other,
Yes. Yeah.
and I don't know which part of them is me, but I'm both of them. But yeah,
Yeah, your body is like
it's like
our
that
bodies
mystery.
are happening within something larger than ourselves, as opposed to us happening in our bodies. And so the
Yeah,
body then becomes this very straightforward truth teller.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
the
yeah,
body is it's astonishing how often you check in with the mind gets quiet and it becomes the servant it always was, not the master, and you notice that the body all along was like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to that thing. We don't actually like going to our ego likes to be invited to that, but when we're there, we don't enjoy it. So
yeah,
this time we can just not go." Okay, got it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
Got it. Very clear.
and when you've got a good, because I've built up a good line of communication with my body now, so I can just sometimes sit and I'll notice something in my body, like, oh, there's a bit of anger there. Like I'm just
Yes.
noticing,
Yes.
like I'm not actually angry right now. Like I'm not acting out angry, but I can
You're
feel it. Like
noticing.
why is that? Why is that? Am I hungry? Did I not sleep well? Or is there something else wrong? And that's where
Yeah.
spiral dynamics comes in and stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, it's helped me figure out I was ill before I actually started getting ill. Sometimes, because I'm like, I need to go to the doctor, like, and yeah, and I did. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, uh, and that's the whole thing with, like, the other great thing about Nunya is we don't know what she looks like. We don't need to. Like, there's no there's so with this book, there's so much left to the imagination. There's so many new
Good.
things that appear that sometimes it's hard to keep up trying to imagine them all in my head. Like, what does this look like? And then you move on to the next thing. Like, it's just like I almost have no time to figure this all out. It's just there. Like, I'm just listening to you describe it, and like uh though I did the hedges. The head is it the hedges or the trees? The shape of
Yes.
the trees.
Yeah, the
It's
stonkings. The
yes, that was I love that.
Wad, Shod, and Goner stonkings are
Yeah,
tree trimmers, and they tell about on their planet.
Yeah,
Everybody trims their trees differently, that's how you express yourself.
exactly. That's how you know who you are. Yeah, I was gonna ask you how you trim your trees.
You know, I had a surreal experience last year. I was traveling, and I was with some friends, and we met up. I met this woman, and she was so familiar, and I was like, "God, where have I met her?" And I was like, "Oh, is she like on" I did like literally, is she like TV or movies? Have I seen her somehow and I think that we're friends? Or I don't understand why this woman is so familiar. And but then she grew up in this different country and everybody's sitting around chatting, getting to know each other. And so I we exchange, where you're from and all that stuff. And I still was like, I have absolutely no commonality with this woman, yet why do I have some sense? And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, she's very close to the image I have in my head of Nunez.
Oh,
Is that
wow.
trippy or what? I was like, "Oh,
That
this
is
is what Nunez." I was
amazing.
"Oh, this is what Nunez would be like."
Wow.
Isn't that I don't and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I was like, "That's the familiarity." She feels astonishingly close to what it would be like to meet Nunez.
Did you tell her?
No, no, no. I'm
Oh,
probably like the second person I've ever told. I met somebody who bears a strikingly unnerving resemblance to a character I made up who grew up on the planet Meeps.
that's incredible. I wonder if other fiction writers have had that experience where they've met someone who's looked like their character and they've never given that character
I
a
mean,
visual
I
representation.
literally would it was racking my brain, like, was it on tour? Was she, like, a friend of s did I go to like, I go back to you have, like, that mental
Yeah,
data bank of
absolutely.
did I go to
Yeah.
university, college? Was she, like, the sister of somebody I went to college with? It's like, where would I have why would I have this Oh, apparently, because there's a a world in my head that's similarly real to the world outside of my head.
Yeah. I
So
know
strange.
I know what that's like because I've got a very visual memory. I'm rubbish at remembering names, but I remember every face. Like I will see faces of people like around. I was staying in my hometown for a couple of weeks while I was in between places, and I went into the town on a Saturday, and I saw a few faces that I kind of like. I know you from somewhere, but I don't know your name. I don't know where I know you from, but I just know I know you. And I didn't say anything to them, obviously, because I didn't know them, but I knew that I'd seen them before somewhere, just because, yeah, it was in my brain somewhere, like, and that I'd met them somewhere. And that happens to me a lot. I seem to see faces, and I think I recognise this face. I'm just wondering if I've got a lot of fictional characters in my head that I haven't made up yet that these people are embodying now.
Well,
Who knows, eh?
that's really fascinating because part of telling a story is you have to make peace with the absurdity of it.
Mm,
Like I love names. I love making up names. If I'm out at the store and the person who's helping me has a name tag and I've never seen the name before, or they spell a conventional name differently, I will 90% of the time talk to them about it because I just,
mm.
what your man, how do you pronounce your name? Where'd that from? Did your parents give, is that short for something? Like, I just absolutely love names and making up names is like how I find my way into the character. And I've always loved names, words, but specifically names. And if somebody has an unusual name, I'll repeat it. I'll say it to myself. I'll say it out loud. I just love it.
Mm,
And to follow that and just delight in it requires, it's almost like letting yourself enjoy. Just going with it. Just don't fight
Mm.
it anymore. You know what I mean? And a story, why is it that we have millions and millions and millions of stories, and yet if I say to you, "Hey, James, can I tell you a story?" Even sometimes our very physiology when someone's like, "Hey, can I tell you a story?" We're like, "Yeah." Like
Yeah.
they, uh, "Can I tell you a story?" "Yeah, of course you can." Like,
Yeah.
even if we don't, even if this person's the most boring, uninteresting person who's just yabbering on to someone said, "Can I tell you a story?" I'll suddenly be like, "Yeah." Like, I just have an instinctual, why is that as human beings? So, for me, going back to your talking about how the books, the surrendering of explaining or knowing what the point is in order to follow the story as it works on me has ended up opening my heart. It's filled, it's like almost moved my whole life from 2D to 3D to 4D to new colors. It's yeah, it's just amazing.
Hmm. That's wonderful.
And I noticed how many people have they have practices, things, events, interests, curiosities, loves that absolutely light them up. And somewhere along the way, they developed a suspicion or a skepticism, like, "It doesn't make money, no one cares, it's a waste of time, what is," and yet it has the very pulse of life within whatever it is.
Yeah.
And following that, not as a distraction from why you're here or as trivial or silly or absurd, but just doubling down on it.
Hmm.
When you think about Instagram's a classic example where, I don't know, this person's obsessed with butterflies and this person over here just likes to like to uh, collect clips of people doing dumb things in boats, or what, you know what I mean? And or this person just likes shoes, and weirdly enough, they double down on that love and blast it to the world, and it's oftentimes quite inspiring. You know what I mean? You're like,
Yeah. It's compelling.
love is very moving.
Yeah. I get that. Like I became a dog dad this year when I got married,
There you go.
and I never thought I'd become a dog dad because I was scared of dogs when I was young. Uh, and one of the things that me and my wife do on Instagram is we share funny dog videos with each other, and it's yeah. And so I go around looking for funny dog videos for
Yes,
my own amusement, and also for my wife's amusement as well. Like and yeah, it's great. Yeah, so I get that. It's when you find something you love and you just wanna share it with people,
yes,
and people can tell intuitively when it's genuine.
yes,
You know, when if you're faking it, people can tell. If it's genuine, people can tell, and people connect with
absolutely.
people connect with love. You know, it's it's a it's a real thing.
So true. Dogs especially. My god, do I love our
Mm,
dogs so much.
yeah, I do. I love our dog too. Yeah, I miss her. I haven't seen her for 2 months, so she's been going into my room at our house in Arkansas while I've been gone. So it's clear she's missed me as well, which is nice. But yeah, yeah. I mean, wow, this conversation's gone all the way over the place from the book. But like, yeah, I mean, it's like it's just I just loved it so much because I don't know it. There's so many new things in it. There's so many names. I mean, you talked about loving names. you can tell that you love names because everything's got a new name. There's so many names of things that I heard for the first time. Actually, in the first book and this book, that I couldn't remember them all. I mean, I struggle to remember names anyway, but like I picked up on the ones that were used most often and remembered those. And like also, there's you use different words for things that we use different words for. Like there's a different word for what we would probably call years, right?
Yes, laps.
Lapse, and I love that by the way. That's a great. That's a great way to talk about years because we talk. That's a phrase, isn't it? Like how many laps around the sun have you done? You know, like it's yeah, and it's just that joy though of exploration and wonder. Like it's just, and even in the moments of tenderness and like great grief and emotion, there's still this wonder of almost discovering these for the first time and actually being fully present because Nunya is fully present in everything she does, even the tender moments.
Yeah, yeah, and a couple times she's depressed. I know, like when she goes back to her sure, and she's like in it for days on end and just sleeps, and she's like narrating even her sadness and depression. She narrates for you and describes it
Yeah.
and witnesses to it without even realizing she's witnessing to it. Oh, here, whatever this is, she doesn't even call it that. She just says, I didn't really do anything for a while. And she doesn't seem to have any judgment on herself. She just lets her, because she doesn't have any sense of this. Apparently, this is what I'm doing now. I'm crashing, or
Yeah.
I'm sad, or we might, I don't know, depressed is a word we might use. Her despair, she doesn't have any sense that this isn't just part of being human.
There's no external expectations around her. She hasn't grown
Yeah,
up.
so there doesn't seem to waste a lot of mental energy with what's wrong with me. Is this, yes, it's just, yeah, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. I mean, it's a window into what life might be like being human if without those kind of constructs around them
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
You know, like because we'd have no choice but to be fully present in
yeah. And
in
when you're
in
full, and when you are present, and you're present to what is, and you make peace with reality, then your mind gets calm. You're no longer picking fights with reality. You're just present to what is, and the whole system starts to calm down.
mm, mm, yeah. And that's I mean, like I've been talking about me moving the last month or so. I've had no choice but to be fully present in everything because all I've had that's all I've
Yeah.
had. Like I at first didn't have anywhere to move into, and I was looking for that, and I was packing, and I was figuring out where I was going to stay in between times, and I didn't have the chance to think about the next 6 months, or the
Mhm.
next year. I was just like, I've got to figure out what today is. Like, how do I get through today? How do I figure out where I'm going to be next week? Like, I need to figure all this out. I have to be present in this now. And it's only like this week, really, that I've not had to do that. But it's definitely given me a different perspective on things,
Yeah.
because like anxiety and all that kind of thing. You've talked about this before somewhere. That anxiety and fear and stuff are about the past and the future. That and from the constructs that we grow up in, capitalism or whatever you want to call it, the kind of the structures that we grow up in that condition us, But Nunya doesn't have those, and she's just been present in everything that she's experienced and experienced everything with wonder and openness. Even like you say, the kind of despair, the depression. She's not. There's not been a moment where she's reflected on the future or the past. It's still you're still being fully. She's still fully present in that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it's really yeah. It's very rare to see that, you know. So, and it's kind of inspiring because it you have to acknowledge like what's going on in your life. Like if I'm going through a grief or a trauma or whatever, or, you know, that I have to acknowledge it's happening and to feel that emotion, but you don't have to give it power over you. You don't have to, yeah, like thinking about like and reflecting on past trauma is helpful and healing, but living there is not helpful and healing. Like it's staying there too long is not healthy. Uh, yeah, and so being fully present is a yeah. I mean, that's the probably one of the biggest lessons of this book is be fully present in your own life, because it'll you won't get held back as much, and you'll
Yes.
still have those difficult periods, but like you can be fully present in them, which means that you can heal from them. Uh,
Yes. And they
for
are
the best.
not ultimate. They are not you. They are something happening within you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, uh, yeah, that's right. And it's yeah, and that's I think that's how you find. I mean, I've experienced a lot of trauma and grief, and like I found moments of joy in those moments, and that would sound
Mhm.
probably paradoxical to some people, but like certainly like I mean, grief never leaves you, right? When you know I lost a parent, you know, yes, you kind of process it and you heal from it and stuff, but the grief is always there. It just
Yeah.
takes on a different form. Uh, but now, when I have that experience, a month, you know, it's 25 years ago nearly. My mum died. It's just joy. I don't think about the sadness that she's not around, or the sadness, the difficult periods that we had.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I just think about the good things and the things that I love about her and the things that I miss about her. And you know, when that you miss someone is just a sign that you love them.
Yes.
Uh, and yeah, and that's being fully present in your grief.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, and well, as this, I mean, I'm not. I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask a personal question about your circumstances, but is there anything? I mean, like, has the process of writing these books been healing to you in any way, like, and helped you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even writing scenes and having all these emotion and tears and not even knowing what it directly was about. Just,
Mm,
"Oh, that taps into something," and then it's now getting its expression. Wow, there's a lot there. Like, when Nunez is finding out about her mother and what happened when she was born, or at the end when Gurge goes into her sure and brings out the satchel,
Oh
and
yeah.
Nunez has no idea what's in the satchel.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not a young woman on the planet Meebs finding out what happened when with my mother when I was born. I am not a young woman on the planet Meebs, and this woman is placing a satchel in front of me, and I'm about to find out what's in the satchel. And yet, those two scenes evoke very, very powerful emotion within me. And not needing even to know why, just noting it, acknowledging it,
Mm,
giving it its expression, and how much, like with my kids, I who move me and just unlike almost anything else in my life. And I could say, well, yeah, they're my kids, of course, but why this moment? Why this thing they said? Why this joy, struggle, heartache, triumph? Um, just becoming much more at peace with the full range of sense, perception, emotion, feeling, and not needing to be able to connect it back to its actual source, if there even is such a thing.
mm,
That's the books. And I've noticed doing interviews, everybody goes right to their own experiences of being human.
Yeah.
And everybody goes to certain scenes, and then they talk about what it means to them, what it evokes, what it reminds them of, what questions it asks, how it helps them locate something within themselves. And that, it's some sense, it's life itself without templates, structures. It's just the experience that we're all having here. And so much of what we do about what's wrong with me, where is this coming from? Nothing's wrong with you. You're a human being on earth.
Yeah.
Like, of course you're sad. Of course you're happy. Of course you have despair. Of course you're euphoric. Of course you are getting used to having a dog. Of course you're traveling and that's got like a dimension. Of course you're moving and that's kind of got stress to it. And yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Welcome. It's like no longer fighting this and letting it be what it is and seeing it in its fullness, as it doesn't need to be fixed. It just is. You're meeting it as it is, which is actually, when we talk about unconditional love, you're meeting something as it actually is.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that takes you into all kinds of new territory.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, and I'm excited to see part 3. There is gonna be a
Yeah.
part 3, isn't there? I take it there is. There's
It's a
gotta be.
pleasure. It's really fun to talk with you about book 2, and who knows? Who knows what's coming? I have plans.
You can't I mean, like, the last line, I won't tell people what it is, but yeah, the last line is like, "Okay, I need the next thing. Okay, I
Good.
need to know what's next. I'm
Good.
ready."
You're in the right place
Feel
then.
like I'm there, yeah. It was the same after the end of book 1. I was ready. So, yeah, I'm excited, and I'm
Good
loving
talking to you.
I'm loving all these experiences. I'm reading of reading and listening to these books. So thank you for sharing them with us, and thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate you coming on.
I loved it. I was here for the sweater.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, we both got sweaters on. This is going to be recorded on video, so you're going to see them. Uh,
Excellent.
and your all your stuff is at your website, isn't it?
Yes.
robbell.com, and you're on Patreon there as well,
Started
uh,
Patreon. Love
which
it.
is really great. I advise everyone to check that out. It's really great. Lots of good stuff on there. And get
Good.
this book if you've not got it already. It's amazing. And the first one as well.
Good. Good. Good.
And get yourself ready for the next one. Yeah. So thanks, Rob.
All right.
And take care, everybody.
See you down the road.
We'll speak to you soon. Yeah.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.